First. Assalamualaikum, teacher Fateh.
How are you?
Great.
Good, alhamdulillah.
Great, alhamdulillah.
Okay, yeah, give me a second to turn on my camera first. Also, this is a new Zoom. how's it's been I think 2 weeks. How's I guess school now for you guys? I guess in school right now.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. Good. Alhamdulillah. Cool. Yeah, it's good. Any difficulties or problems you guys have at school, or like difficult classes, or I don't know, work or anything like that? It's good. It's all easy, super easy. You guys can breeze through your classes and tests and everything. Well, yeah. Well, if you do have like if you're struggling with anything, feel free to you can ask questions here. Also, you can if there's anything you also want to cover as well. Like it doesn't have to be like related to Islam specifically, but we can talk about it here too. Any issues or concerns you guys might have. This is a very I don't have a specific curriculum in this class, as you can tell. It's just what I think you guys would benefit from the most, inshallah. So yeah, this is a very like flexible, not a class, but more like it's a halakha, so a discussion for all of you. Okay. Assalamu alaikum, Haris. How are you? Alhamdulillah. Good. Let's wait a few more minutes, see if people will join. I think Yuta and Yuki will not be available to come, but we'll see if others will join. Sorry, give me 1 second. Hold on. Hello, Assalamualaikum. Yeah, sorry for the delay. Okay, let's get started, inshallah. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم اللهم صل على محمد وعلى آل محمد كما صليت على إبراهيم وعلى آل إبراهيم في العالمين إنك حميد مجيد رب اشرح لي صدري ويسر لي أمري واحلل عقدة من لساني يفقهوا قولي رضيت بالله ربا وبالإسلام دينا وبمحمد نبيا ورسولا. And let's recite الفاتحة. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين الرحمن الرحيم مالك يوم الدين إياك نعبد وإياك نستعين اهدنا الصراط المستقيم صراط الذين أنعمت عليهم غير المغضوب عليهم ولا الضالين آمين. Okay. Excuse me. So, Assalamualaikum everyone for coming on this Sunday afternoon time. I don't have a big topic today. I think it'll be a shorter session today, but it is an important one. So, inshallah, let me just share my screen. Okay, so yeah, so inshallah, we're going to be studying the Quran again, right? So this is just remember, right? The Quran is our guidebook to life, right? We covered this many weeks ago, right? If there's anything that we have trouble with, or any question we have, anything we like want to ask about, right? Then you can find the answer almost certainly, or basically certainly in the Quran, right? The Quran has the answers to all of our problems, right? And we can study the Quran, or we can also look at the Prophet's life, right? Like through the Hadith, right? And what is the Hadith again? Can you know what the Hadith is again? Right? If the Quran is our guidebook in life, then what is the Hadith? Anyone can tell? Yes, the Hadith, to say, is basically the sayings and the actions of the Prophet, right? It's basically the Prophet ﷺ's example of the Quran, right? So if there's anything that we know that we can study the Quran, and if we want to see how as a practical application, we look at the Prophet's life. But first, we're going to look at the Quran first, right? This is one of the ayah I wanted to cover, and this is, anyone recognize this ayah on the screen right now? Baqarah ayah 225 to 255. This is known as Ayat Kursi, right? This is Ayat Kursi, one of the famous ayah in the Quran, right? And you may or may not have memorized it, or you know about it, right? But this is one of the most virtuous ayahs that you can read in the Quran, right? So generally, there's also many hadiths that the Prophet he used to mention, right? That you recite these basically every day, right? Every time before you sleep, every time if you want to seek protection, if you want to, seek protection from Allah, if you want to get closer to Allah, right? If you want to ask for forgiveness or anything, you can recite this ayah as well. Okay, so it's this ayah here, 225. So inshallah, we're going to study it. Also look at some of the hadith about it as well, right? And before we do that, remember that when we read the Quran, right, there's a couple steps, right, that we need to do in order to take advantage of it. What are the steps? Can anyone tell me what those are? It's very simple. Right, there's four things in order for us to take advantage of the Quran. Right, what's the first thing? The 4 steps. You guys there? You guys quiet? Okay, yes, Basim. Thank you, Basim. Yes, read, translate, understand, apply. Correct. Right? So whenever we read the Quran, just keep these things in mind, right? If we want to take advantage of the Quran, it's not just enough that we just read it. Of course, reading it has benefits, but right? We want to make sure, because it's a guidebook, right? It's a manual to our life. We want to take the most advantage of it, right? So just remember, when you read it, read the translate. First, you read the Arabic, right? If you can read the Arabic, try to learn reading Arabic, and then read the translation, so English, to understand what it means. Then understand, which is the most important part, is to reflect on what it means for you, right? And then apply. Apply is to apply it in your life. Right? So whatever lesson we take from this, inshallah, apply it to your life. Like, whether it's reciting this ayah more, or if it's doing more charity, more salat, etc. Okay? So just remember those 4 things whenever you read. And of course, right, when you're even doing your salat too, right, when you're praying, right, just remember these things as well, right? So when you, instead of just reading it and like not thinking about anything, like, oh, sometimes we pray, we go to prayer, and then we're just like praying, like reading, Anas al Falaq, right, the short surahs, and then just calling it a day. But when you think about this, just think about the surah you're reading, right? If you don't understand what it means, just look at the meaning, and then whenever you recite it again, think about like, what is the lesson there, right? So that's why when we read the Quran, it's important that we understand the lesson, so that it's not just reading for us, right? We don't just read the Quran, but we actually understand what we're reading, and we try to apply that. So let's move on to the ayah itself, right? So this is Ayat Kursi. This is 205th ayah. So first we'll read the Arabic. So anyone would like to volunteer to read this?
Me.
Okay, go ahead, Pasha. So this ayah here.
أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الله لا إله إلا هو الحي القيوم لا تأخذه لا 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 تأخذه سنة ولا نوم له ما في السماوات وما في الأرض من من ذا الذي يشفع عنده إلا بإذنه يعلم ما بين أيديهم وما خلفهم ولا يحيطون بشيء من علمه إلا بما شاء وسع كرسيه السماوات والأرض ولا يعوده حفظهم حفظهم حفظهما وهو العلي العظيم.
Thank you, Pasha, for the recitation. Alhamdulillah. And who would like to read the English? So we just read the Arabic, now the English here. Someone else can read the English translation? If not, I'll pick someone. Maybe Raihan. Can you read the English?
Allah, there is no God worthy of worship except Him, the ever-living, all-sustaining. Neither drowsiness nor sleep overtakes Him. To Him belongs whatever is in the heavens and whatever is on the earth. Who could possibly intercede with Him without His permission? He fully knows what is ahead of them and what is behind them, but no one can grasp any of His knowledge except what He wills to reveal. His seat encompasses the heavens and the earth, and the preservation of both does not tire Him. For He is the Most High, the Greatest.
Okay. Thank you, Pasha or Raihan, for the translation. Okay, so now we've read that, and let's try to understand it, right? So this is a bit long ayah, right? Longer than what we read usually. But as we just remember, right, Ayat Kursi is known as like one of the famous ayah of the Quran, right? It's also even referred to as the greatest ayah, right, by the Prophet. And right, if you look at the English, right, let's just read it. There are several sentences here. Okay, so this is one ayah, but within the ayah, there's a couple of several sentences that we can look at. So the first thing, right, Allahu la ilaha illa huwa al-hayyul qayyum. Right? The translation: Allah, there is no God worthy of worship except Him, the ever-living, the all-sustaining. Okay, so right, this ayah is, usually we read this ayah as a dua, right? So when you read a dua, right, usually a dua is for what? To ask for something. In this case, right, I'll tell you that this ayah is usually a dua for protection. And what is it a protection from usually? Anyone know? Right, when does anyone know when you recite this ayah usually? I mean, there are many cases you can recite it, but what are some cases that you would recite this? So in some cases, right, usually you read this before you sleep, right? Before you go to sleep, right, you would read this for protection, right, during your sleep, right? Because your sleep, if you didn't know, like it's referred to as like a minor death. Like when you go to sleep, right? This is just a slight tangent, but we believe when you sleep, your soul actually kind of leaves your body, right? Like when you're dreaming, right? You have these like vivid dreams happening, and obviously you're not conscious enough to really realize what's happening, but you're dreaming, right? And you basically have these like wild experiences, whatever those dreams are, maybe, right? And sometimes people, when they dream, right, there are cases where people dream and they don't come back to life, right? People die in their sleep, right? So many things can happen in your sleep, right? And so that's why when we go to sleep, right, there's many dua that you read that we ask for protection from Allah to protect us during our sleep, so that nothing happens that's bad for us, that we don't, that we have a peaceful sleep, and that nothing bad happens, right? So that's one example of when you read this. Another example, that you might hear is that when you seek protection from any scary situation, right? Like, or jinn, for example, like people say that if Muslims were in a horror movie, right, the movie would be over in like a minute, or like 5 minutes, right? They go to a haunted house, they recite Al Kursi, all the ghosts will disappear, right? It's kind of a joke that you may have heard of, but it's a little true, right? Because this ayah, right, it is a protection from the jinn, or from the unseen, right? If there's something that's scaring you, like has anyone ever seen like a possession? If you ever go back to Indonesia or like other countries, as some people are, it's a true, like it's a true thing. Like you might hear stories from your relatives that there's people get possessed, right, by jinn, right? Like kind of these scary stories, or like there's some, or they see like this being that shouldn't be there but is, like at night, and it's not a human, it's something else, right? It's a creature. Not to scare you guys, but we do believe in jinn, right? That we believe in the unseen. Like these things are real, right? And generally, right, whenever these things happen, you recite Ayatul Kursi, right? Because the jinn, they just like us, right? They fear Allah. Like they fear Allah, and there is no power greater than Allah's power, right? We know that Allah is the greatest, right? Allah is the greatest, and He is the creator of everything, right? So the jinn, even though the jinn are scary and they seem like they're like have these otherworldly powers, right? Our greatest power is the Quran, is reading the Quran, right? That the weapon of the believer is dua, right? That's one of the sayings, right, that we believe. So if there's anything that's spooking you, or like I don't know if you guys are scared of the dark or anything like that, but you can always recite this ayah, right? This ayah, if you haven't already memorized it, I highly suggest that you guys memorize this ayah, right? That this is something very useful to have, right? So if there's anything troubling you or anything, you can just recite this, and inshallah, right, Allah will give you protection. Okay, so the ayah starts with right, Allahu la ilaha illa huwal hayyul qayyum. Okay, so why does when we recite this dua, why do we start with saying we're talking about Allah? Right? Or if you notice, the whole ayah is actually describing Allah. Why? Generally, when you ask for something, you usually say like like you ask for protection. There's something that you're asking for, right? Like say, oh Allah, protect me from the evil of the jinn, right? Or Allah, guide me to the straight path. Like, oh Allah, grant me knowledge, or grant grant forgiveness, right? Usually there's a request, right? Usually in a dua, but in most dua, there's also a description of Allah. Why do we have a description of Allah like this? Anyone know? Anyone can answer why do we start with this with a description of Allah? And when we recite this, why is there a description of Allah? Same thing with Al-Fatiha. I'll also say, remember we studied Al-Fatiha, right? The first surah in the Quran. Right? Bismillah, Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen. If you notice, right, the first half of that surah, right? If you just look at Al-Fatiha real quickly, right? In this surah, right, it's also it starts with the all praises for Allah. Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen. Ar-Rahman Ar-Rahim Maliki Yawmiddin. Okay, why do we start with this, right? Before we go to the dua, which is Ihdina Siratal Mustaqim, guide us to the straight path. Right? So in Islam, right, when we make dua, right, of course you can always go straight to the request. Right? You can say, oh Allah, guide us to the straight path, or Allah, forgive our sins, right? But in Islam, right, is etiquette, right, is adab to start, when you're asking for something, that you address, right, who you're asking, right? That if we want to ask from Allah, right, we have to remember, right, Allah is who? Who is Allah to us, right? Allah is our God, right? The God we worship, right? He is the creator, right? We have all these description of him, right? We have the 99 names of Allah, right? And when you ask for someone from that, you know, can you imagine like you went up to like the president, or okay, I keep saying the president, but let's say you ask, you know, like the highest ranking person in some organization, or you want to ask them for something like a favor, or you ask your mom. Say you ask your mom, hey, like I want like a PS5. Okay, like if you just ask your mom for a PS5 just like that, right? Do you think it's gonna be easy to get it? Right? Depends on how generous your mom is, right? If your mom really wants to give it to you, then you know, maybe. But right, generally, right, you want to address them with proper etiquette, right? You want to have a good etiquette when you ask someone for a favor, right? Like you want to address them, oh, you know, like, you know, oh, you know, you are the leader of the household, or you are the president of this thing, like, or when you write a letter, for example, to someone like the president, you say, oh, esteemed, you know, professor of this and this, or you know, you have all these achievements, right? So usually you begin with some sort of like a salutation, like that's a respect, out of respect for them, right? And with Allah, right, because Allah is the greatest, right, of the Rabbil Alameen, the Lord of all the worlds, does he not deserve, right, the greatest respect? Right? Does it make sense? Right? So when we make a dua, that's why we start dua usually with describing his names, like describing who he is. Like we say, Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen, Ar-Rahman Ar-Rahim, Maliki Yawmiddin. Okay? So just like in Al-Fatiha, right, we start with first respecting, like describing who he is, right? So we show our respect and we acknowledge his greatness, right? Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, right? So, and then, so back to here in Ayat Kursi, right? This is a dua, but if you notice in this dua, there's no specific request, right? If you look at the ayah here, there is no request. Like we're not asking for something. We're not like saying, oh, Allah protect us from the jinn, right? Right? We're actually just describing, right? Where we're describing who Allah is, right? That this whole ayah is about describing who Allah is, right? And this could be considered like the best protection, because, right, all the jinn, all the creation, right, knows who Allah is. And you know, if there's ever a point where you feel like, you know, you're scared, or you feel that there's something stronger, like some force that's, you know, that's overwhelming you, right? Like not just jinn, but also like just the world, like you know, say you have, you know, tests, or you have like, you know, you're overwhelmed with, you know, work in this world, and or you know, people, like maybe people are too, you know, you think that you're being overpowered in this world, right? You can refer to this ayah, because in this ayah it reminds us that, you know, Allah is the one above everything, right? The greatest, right? You know, the creator of everything in this world. Okay, right? So let's go back to the ayah again, right? So we say, Allahu la ilaha illa huwa al-hayyul qayyum. There's no God worthy of worship except Him, the ever-living, the all-sustaining. Okay, and then la ta'khudhuhu sinatu wa la nawm. Neither drowsiness nor sleep overtakes Him. Okay, what does that mean? And neither drowsiness nor sleep overtakes Him. Right? Very simply, right? That basically Allah never sleeps. Right? So imagine, you're managing like a whole. I don't know. I mean, you're managing like a city, or managing something like leaders, right? Eventually, you're going to have to take some rest, right? Take some break, right? From overseeing that whatever happens, right? So you leave them to their own devices, right? But Allah does not sleep, right? So Allah will always be with you like 24/7, right? If as long as you seek His help, right? And He never sleeps. He never tires of you sleeping. If usually when we ask people, if you keep asking your teachers questions, eventually they're going to get tired, right? Even though they'll say, "Oh, I'll always help you," right? But even if you ask them like every question every minute, every hour or so, right? They're humans, right? They're going to get tired, right? But you can ask Allah like every minute of your life. You can always be in dua. You can always pray. You can always do anything, and Allah will never tire of you, right? And we know that, right? That this is one of His traits, right? That He is the ever-living, all-sustaining. Okay? To Him belongs whatever is in the heavens, whatever is on the earth. Okay? Right? So this is describing what? That He is the owner of everything. Right? That He owns everything. That basically, right? That, if like we think that we everything in this world, right? That we think belongs to us actually belongs to Him, right? That, right? There's the saying, right? Inna lillahi wa inna ilayhi raji'un. Yeah, what does that mean? Anyone can translate that? What does that mean? Inna lillahi wa inna ilayhi raji'un. And it's something you say when people pass away too. Anyone know the meaning of that? Okay, so the saying "Inna lillahi wa inna ilayhi raji'un" means from Allah we belong, and to Allah we will return. So to Allah we belong, and to Allah we will return. Okay, so usually, right, we say this when someone passes away. Like say you just heard like someone passed away in the community, you would say this. Okay, and the reason is, right, that it's a way for us to understand that this sentence here, right, that to, right, lahu ma fis samawati wa ma fil ard, that to Allah belongs whatever is in the heavens and whatever is on the earth. Okay, so that means that everything right now that we own, everything that all of our belongings, everything in this world right now that we think we own, will eventually return to Allah, right? Or even our lives too, especially our lives, right? Our lives that we right now, right, we have a limited time on this earth, right? And eventually, right, we are going to, everyone, kullu nafsin dha'iqatul maut, that everyone will taste death, right? Death is a universal truth, right? It doesn't matter, how healthy you are, how rich you are, right? Everyone in this world will experience death, right? That is something that's going to happen. Okay, and when that happens, right, we understand that when death happens, that's when we return to Allah. That our souls will leave this body and we will go to the next phase in the life, which is the life in the grave and the hereafter. Okay, so right, when we recite this, right, to Him belongs whatever's in the heavens, whatever's on the earth, right? It means that we know that Allah owns everything, right, on this heaven and in the earth, right, everything. And it also gives us comfort, right, that you think that all the things that happen, right, that means everything that happens, right now, all the good things, the bad things that happen in this world are all happening, right, under His protection, under His ownership. Okay, right, and then the next, right? So who could possibly intercede with Him without His permission? Okay, what does intercede mean first? Right, so this sentence here, what does it mean to intercede? Anyone know? Intercede. Okay, intervene. Okay, yeah. Kind of, yeah. So intercede, usually when you intercede, it's like, imagine there's an argument, or imagine there's some trial, okay? And an intercession is usually someone who can, like when you intercede on someone's behalf is when you're basically like vouching for them, right? So say someone's like on trial for some action or some deed, right? And when you intercede, basically saying, oh, I know this guy, I know he's a good guy, right? Basically, you're vouching for them that they are not, like they're not, guilty of this crime, right? For example, right? That's what it means to intercede. Okay, and in this case, right? What do you guys think is the context of interceding? And like, when you intercede, in this case, right? Usually, it means interceding in some trial, right? What is the trial in this case, right? What do you guys think is the trial being discussed here? Like, there's one trial that everyone, right, is worried about, right, at the end, and what is that? Right? Right? There's going to be a day, right, where we will be judged for our deeds, right? The day of judgment, right? So that's the day when basically the ultimate trial, right? Basically all of our good deeds, all of our bad deeds, they will be basically judged by, Allah will judge them, right? And He will, right? That's He's going to judge them and decide what's going to happen to us on that day, right? And on that day, right, there will be intercessions. So there will be cases where actually, right, even though we are being judged, right, there will be, for example, who will be the ones interceding for us, right? There will be the Prophet, sallallahu alaihi wasallam, right? If you guys know, right, the Prophet Muhammad, our Prophet, will, he's going to help, he wants, he's going to be there, and he's going to try to help us to intercede for the Muslims on that day, right? Basically, that he's going to try and save as many Muslims as possible on that day, right? To bring them, inshallah, to Jannah, right? And also, people who intercede, like, for example, like, parents or relatives, right? People, our loved ones, right? That, they can also intercede on our behalf as well. But, right, it's only with His permission, right? So basically, right, during that day, right, all the power, right, belongs to Allah. Okay, so as we know, right, on the day of judgment, it's going to be a very intense day, and I think we might cover that. We could cover that in another day. But there's going to be basically on that day a lot of things will happen, right? And it's a reminder that basically, even though on this world where we have all these world governments, we have leaders, we have United Nations, powerful, billionaires, etc., right? All of that power is going to be useless on that day, right? And that basically the measure of a person's worth will not be based on like their riches or their wealth, but on what? What is it going to be based off of on that day instead of wealth? Anyone know? Right, instead of wealth, what will be the measure of a person's value? Right, it's going to be based on their deeds and their taqwa, which is their relationship with Allah. So their deeds and their relationship with Allah. Okay, makes sense, right? So, right. So in this sentence, right, right, He fully knows what is ahead of them and what is behind them. Right? What does this mean? Right? He fully knows what is ahead of them and what is behind them. Anyone know what this sentence means? Anyone can guess at least? What is ahead? when something is ahead of us, what is that? What is another word for that? If you knew something that's going to happen ahead of you, that's as if you're what? You're knowing. It's as if you're knowing the future, right? If you know what is ahead of you, you know what the future is. And if you know what's behind you, then you know what the past is, right? So when we say this, when we recite this in the Quran, right? Right? That Allah knows basically all of what's going to happen ahead, the future, and all of what's going to happen in the past. Basically, He knows all of time. Okay, right? So everything that's going to happen, everything that has happened in the past, He has full knowledge of. Okay, so basically He knows He knows the future, He knows the past, He knows the present, right? He basically has full knowledge of anything, right? And the next sentence also says this too, right? That وَلَا يُحِيطُونَ بِشَيْءٍ مِنْ عِلْمِهِ إِلَّا بِمَا شَاءَ. That no one can grasp any of His knowledge except what He wills to reveal. Okay, so right, this means that Allah is all knowing, right? That He knows everything from the future, the past, and everything, right? So that's why that we can always ask Allah, like we can always ask dua from Allah, like that we ask Him like what is the best for us, because Allah already knows the best decision for us to take, right? If there's anything that you have a hard trouble deciding, right? Like say you want to say you're thinking about which college to get into, okay, and you're applying to colleges and you're thinking, okay, which college is the best? Is it better to go to this local college? Should I go out of state? Should I go abroad? Should I go for the cheaper one, the more expensive one, or all these decisions that you make, right? We don't know what's going to happen, right? We make the best decision, right? But ultimately, right, we don't know what's going to happen, okay? Whether it's a job, like a college, right? Or if you want to find a good job, right? Or maybe you want to find a good school, like if you're trying to get into, whatever good school, right? We think we know what the best is, but we don't know. And the same thing, for example, right now, like with the election, right? I don't know, right? I don't know if all of you are old enough to vote, but right, the election too. That's also a very lively topic now, right? But even the election itself, right? We might think we know who the best candidate is, right? Based on research and based on all of these stories and plans and everything, right? But only Allah knows what is the best. Okay, so right, we make the best decision, but we ask Allah, right, to help us make the best decision, right? That because we know that all in the best, right? We make all the plans, right? But the best of planners is Allah, right? Allah is the best of planners, right? So it doesn't matter. Like you might think that your plan like is flawless and it works out, and maybe when you try to do it, it actually fails immediately, right? And maybe it's because what you did, right? Allah knows that if you had gone with that plan, then it would have failed, right? And He's trying to help you by giving you a better plan, right? So that's why we make the best plan, but whatever happens, we trust that it is the best that Allah has given us. Does that make sense? Right? Because we know, right, if you believe, right, that Allah has, knowledge of everything, then we should know that Allah knows what is best for us, right? If He knows the future, right, then obviously He knows the best plan for us, right? So that's why, we should still try to make a plan, right? Okay, I'm going to apply to this college, right? Or I'm going to study these topics for the test or something, right? And you execute on that plan, but know that whatever happens is going to be, you make dua that is going to be the best thing for you. Okay, make sense? Right?
Yes.
And that this is that Allah's knowledge, right? That Allah is all knowing. Okay, and then the last two sentences, right? وَسِعَ كُرْسِيُّهُ السَّمَاوَاتِ وَالْأَرْضِ. Right, that His seat encompasses the heavens and the thrones, or another translation also is the throne. Right? وَسِعَ كُرْسِي. Right? In also Indonesian, and kursi is what? Is also chair, right? So kursi is the chair or the seat, right? And it's saying that وَسِعَ كُرْسِيُّهُ السَّمَاوَاتِ وَالْأَرْضِ, that His seat encompasses the heavens and the earth. Okay, so His basically this is again, his domain is everything, right? The heavens and the earth, all of it is under his ownership, right? Like remember in the beginning, right? That to him belongs whatever's in the heavens and whatever's on the earth, right? His seat encompasses everything in the heavens and the earth, right? And basically, you can think about it like this is a huge house. All the universe is like a huge house, right? And Allah's seat basically encompasses all of that, right? That we are basically all, you can think of it like we're all within, right? Allah's like the domain that belongs to Allah, right? The al-alamin. Okay, and then lastly, وَلَا يَؤُودُ حِفْظُهُمَا وَهُوَ الْعَلِيُّ الْعَظِيمُ, right? Basically, the preservation of both does not tire him, for he is the most high, the greatest. Right? So again, right, that even though Allah owns everything, right, in this earth and the heavens, right, managing it does not tire him. Right? It does not make him sleepy. Right? So we can keep asking him for for dua, for help, for all these things that we want, and he will not tire of it. Right? And because he is the most high, right, that he is Aliyyun Azim, the most high, the greatest. Okay, so that is Ayat Kursi. I know it's a very lengthy ayah. Okay, but inshallah, hopefully you guys got some lessons from it. But just to summarize, right, this is describing who Allah is. Right. So remember, why does a dua have a description of why do we have a description of Allah in our dua? Again, why is it that we describe who Allah is when we make a dua? Anyone answer? So when we make a dua, why do we describe who Allah is first before we make the dua? Like remember in Al-Fatiha again before, right? We describe who Allah is, and then we said we ask Allah to guide us to the straight path, right? But why is it that we describe Allah? Anyone say? Rayhan, can you know the answer? Why is it that we describe who Allah is when we make a dua? Right, so in this ayah, right, we describe who Allah is. Right? Oh, I think he disconnected. Okay, but remember, right? So when we make a dua, we make a dua, right? We describe who Allah is, right? As a form of etiquette, right? As a respect, right? And also, when we glorify Allah, it is also considered dua as well, right? Because this is also a way for us to get closer to Allah, right? To get the taqwa, right? to get the relationship with Allah. If we acknowledge who He is, if we describe who He is, right? The more we understand what His attributes are, right? The closer we are to Him, right? And that's also a way of worship, right? That is also an act of worship. If we describe who Allah is, right? It is also an act of worship, right? A form of ibadah, right? And that is our purpose in life, is to worship Allah, right? So the more we worship Allah, the more we describe who He is, right? Then inshallah, the more that Allah will also grant us, right, His blessings, right, His ni'mah, right? That if there's something that we want, right, then we just have to increase our relationship with Allah, right? And one of the best ways to do that is to describe who He is, right? This ayah is basically it basically describes like who Allah is and what right, like basically the what his ownership is for everything. Okay. Right, and there's many hadith about talking about this as well, right? That the Prophet ﷺ said, right, this is the greatest ayah in the Quran, right? And basically, if you were to recite this, right, before sleep, like we just mentioned, that you would get protection, right, in your sleep. Also in another hadith, right, that basically, if someone, the Prophet ﷺ said, if someone recites Ayat Kursi after every Fard Salah, so after the 5 daily prayers, right, nothing stops him from entering paradise except death, right? So, like, you know, after you make your Salah, after you pray, right, if you recite this ayah, right, every time, inshallah, then you will enter Jannah, right? So this is something that this is a lesson we can apply, like, you know, pretty practically, right? So basically, every time you pray, just recite this, right? If you haven't memorized it, just read the Quran. Just read on your phone, just recite it. You know, it's just one ayah, right? I think it's like, you know, like a third of the page, right? We just recite this, right? After every salah, right? Okay, and right, another hadith, basically that this verse in Surah Al-Baqarah is the chief of the verses of the Sayyidah, which is the chief. Like, imagine like it's like a tribe, and this is like the chief of the verses in Al-Baqarah, right? And whenever you recite it, the shaitan leaves the house, right? So, like, again, this is the protection from the shaitan, from the jinn. And whenever you recite this ayah, all the jinn leave, right? It's basically it's giving a warning to them. Like, say, if they're, if you think there's like, some spirits like nearby or something like jinn, right? You can recite this ayah, right? And it'll give you peace and comfort. Okay? Right? And it's been mentioned that, the companions asked, what is the greatest ayah in the Quran? And the Prophet ﷺ said, Ayat Kursi. Okay? So, inshallah, right, the lesson is very clear, right? This ayah is a very important ayah. So I highly recommend everyone to memorize this if you have not, right? And if you have memorized it, then at least try to recite it, right, regularly every day. Okay, so like before you sleep, right? Just you can pull out your Quran on your phone or or the actual Quran, the physical book, and just recite the ayah. Right, and now you at least understand like the meaning a little bit, right? So you can at least understand what is the meaning, right? The translation, right, and what it means for you, right? This is basically like a dua, right? This ayah is a dua for protection against all the evils in the world. Okay, and it also describes who Allah is, right? So this is a description of Allah, who Allah is, and as we know, right, if we study who Allah is, then it'll help us get closer to Him and be able to worship Him better. Okay, does that make sense? Anyone have any questions? Any concerns? Okay. Yep. Okay, so inshallah, that's all I wanted to cover for today. Just again, like, if you have any questions, again, let me know. And just remember, right, that to this Ayat Kursi, try to memorize it or at least read it regularly. It's, the benefits are very immense, inshallah. So, so just try to recite it whenever you can. It seems like Rayhan, I think, is repeatedly reconnecting. I don't know if he has internet issues. But yeah, if there's no more questions, then we can close for today. Okay, any more questions or concerns? Okay, so if not, then let's close for today with Kafaratul Majlis and Dua. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. اللهم صل على محمد وعلى آل محمد كما صليت على إبراهيم وعلى آل إبراهيم في العالمين إنك حميد مجيد. رب اغفر لي ولوالدي وارحمهما كما ربياني صغيرا. اللهم ربنا ستب البعصاء اشفي أنت الشافعي لا شفاء إلا شفاؤك شفاء لا يغادر سقما. اللهم رزقنا رزقا واسعا كثيرا حلالا طيبا بارك وأنت خير الرازقين. الله لا إله إلا هو الحي القيوم لا تأخذه سنة ولا نوم له ما في السماوات وما في الأرض من ذا الذي يشفع عنده إلا بإذنه يعلم ما بين أيديهم وما خلفهم ولا يحيطون بشيء من علمه إلا بما شاء وسع كرسيه السماوات والأرض ولا يؤوده حفظهما وهو العلي العظيم. ربنا آتنا في الدنيا حسنة وفي الآخرة حسنة وقنا عذاب النار. سبحانك اللهم وبحمدك أشهد أن لا إله إلا أنت أستغفرك وأتوب إليك. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. والعصر إن الإنسان لفي خسر إلا الذين آمنوا وعملوا الصالحات وتواصوا بالحق وتواصوا بالصبر. جزاكم الله خير everyone for coming. See you next week inshallah. Assalamu alaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Assalamu alaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Thank you for joining us, Teacher Fateh. Goodbye and have a great day. You too. It's new. And it's new.
Good, it's just you. Emily Elizabeth, you gotta help me.
Help you do what?
Achoo!
Oh, now I get what's up.
Merchandise. Franchise.
You're worried. Hi, my name is Emily Elizabeth, and this is Clifford, my big red dog.
Clifford needed Emily, so she chose him for her own. And her love made Clifford grow so big that the Howards had to leave their home. Clifford's the best friend anyone could know. He's the greatest dog ever. I really think so. Clifford's so loyal. He's there when you call. I love Clifford, the big red dog. So they packed up the family car, and the Howards left the city. They moved to Birdwell Island, and their many new friends. There to greet Clifford and Emily. Clifford Clifford's so much fun, he's a friend to us all. I love Clifford, the big red dog.
Shunting trucks and pulling freight, red and green and brown and blue. They're the really useful crew. All the different roads to bear around, taking the shed so far away. Down the hills and round the bend, Thomas and his friends. Thomas, he's the cheeky one. James is lame but lots of fun. Percy pulls a melody. Gordon thunders down the line. Emily really knows her stuff. Henry toots and huffs and puffs. Edward wants to help and share. Toby, well, let's say he's square. They're two, they're four, they're six, they're eight. Shunting trucks and hauling freight. Red and green and brown and blue. They're the really useful crew. All the different roads to play around in the shed so far away. Down the hills and round the bend. Thomas and his friends.
Martha was an average dog. She went and when she ate some alphabet soup, then what happened was bizarre.
On the way to Martha's stomach, the letters lost their way. They traveled to her brain and down.
She's got a lot. Martha was an average dog. She went and when she ate some alphabet soup, then what happened was bizarre.
On the way to Martha's stomach, the letters lost their way. They traveled to her brain and down.
She's got a lot to say. Now she speaks. Martha speaks. Yeah, she speaks and speaks and speaks and speaks and speaks.
What's a caboose? What are we eating again?
Martha speaks.
Hey, Joe, what do you know? My name's not Joe.
She's not always right, but still that Martha speaks.
Hi there.
She's got the voice, she's ready to shout. Martha will tell you what it's all about. Sometimes wrong, but seldom in doubt. Martha will tell you what it's all about. That dog's unique.
Testing 1, 2.
Hear her speak. Martha speaks and speaks and speaks and speaks. And
Communicates, enumerates, elucidates, exaggerates, indicates, investigates, obviates, and overstates, and hyperventilates.
Martha, to reiterate, Martha speaks.
Hi there, Dash here. I've got a great dancing game for you at PBSKids.org. Let's dance along. Come on, it's time to dance. Get on your feet and dance. Dance party, dance, dance party. Dance party, dance, just dance party. Hi there, Dash here. I've got a great dancing game for you at PBSKids.org. Let's dance along. Come on, it's time to dance. Get on your feet and dance. Dance party, dance, dance party. Dance party, dance, just dance party. Hi there, Dash here. I've got a great dancing game for you at PBSKids.org. Let's dance along. Come on, it's time to dance. Get on your feet and dance. Dance party. Hi there, Dash here. I've got a great dancing game for you at PBSKids.org. Let's let's dance along. Come on, let's dance and dance. Get on your feet and dance. Dance, buddy. Dance, dance, buddy. Dance, buddy. Dance, just dance, buddy. Are you ready? Dance along with what I sing in English and Spanish and see if you can figure out the pattern. Wave your hands, salita tus manos. Kick your feet, patilla con tus pies. Wave your hands, salita tus manos. Kick your feet, patilla con tus pies. Wave your hands. What's next? Agita tus manos. Kick your feet. What's next? Patilla con tus pies. You can keep on dancing with your favorite PBS Kids friends on the computer at pbskids.org. Thanks for dancing, not a dash. Dash, just dance, go. Remember, we dance with you at pbskids.org. Here we go. Hi, my name is Emily Elizabeth, and this is Pepper, my big red dog.
She chose getting bothered home. Love made Pippa grow so big. I was had to leave their home. I was getting bothered home. Love made Pippa grow so big. I was had to leave their home. When anyone could know the greatest dog ever so big. I was had to leave their home. When anyone could know the greatest dog ever. I really think so big. I was had to leave their home. Was getting bothered home. Love made me grow so big. I was had to leave their home. When anyone was getting bothered home. Love made me grow so big. I was had to leave their home. When anyone could know the greatest dog ever. I really think so. So loyal, and when you so, so loyal. The best. I love the best friend anyone will know. Greatest so big. I really know, big. I was actually there. Oh. The best friend anyone will know. Greatest dog in love. I really think so. So loyal. And when you call, I love the best friend anyone will know. Greatest dog in love. I really think so. So loyal. And when you call, I love the best. I love the best friend anyone will know. Greatest dog in love. I really think so. So loyal. And when you call, I love the best friend anyone will know. Greatest dog in love. I really think so. So loyal. And when you call, I love the big red dog. I really think so. So big. I was actually there. The best friend anyone will know. Greatest dog. So big. I was actually there. The best friend anyone will know. Greatest dog in.
Manning $5,000, which Dennis and Denise vehemently refuse to. Continuing their journey across the town, Dash and Don eventually come upon their grandparents, Duncan and Dono, who assume that they ran away from home and allow them to stay with them. As Dono makes their grandchildren feel cozy, Dash tells her and Duncan that the real reason they've been wandering alone is that their parents have been kidnapped and they've left home to search for them. Having flashbacks of yesterday, Dot starts to feel sad again. So Dono shares with her granddaughter.
Doing a partnership like this makes you pull back and be like, wait, like.
Hello guys, it's Thomas here, and welcome to my first video on 2022, and
Trade them.
Learn your lines. What are we gonna do? We have a full audience out there.
Well, maybe somebody else knows the lines.
Somebody else? Like who?
Emily knows the lines, Miss Carrington.
adventure is calling, she can't stay away. Her armor is sparkling, her courage is great. Her necklace is glowing, now she'll find a way. With help from her best friends, they'll save the day. Her heart is bright, she's Nella the princess, not to herself, doing it right. Her heart is bright, she's Nella the princess, not awesome. Come along on action-packed adventures with Nella the Princess Knight on Nickelodeon.
You can watch more Nella the Princess Knight on Nickelodeon and in the free Nick Jr. app.
That is one big trunk. Big Red Dogs. Welcome to Big Red Tours, where we bring the world to you. All aboard the Big Red Train. Next stop, Mexico. Mexico. To you. All aboard the Big Red Train. Next stop, Mexico. Lead the way, tour guide Pablo.
Tell who it is yet. Around the buffers and the wheels, it's got lots of wheels. Do you know who it is? That's right. It's Gordon. Hello, Gordon.
Mario was lost when he was trying to find Luigi. He met a mushroom named Toad. And then when Mario asked Toad that he was lost, he will find Princess Peach. Actually, Mario reminds me of me. That reminds of me. And also, I also watched the theaters with my best friend Percy, especially James, Edward, especially Gordon and Henry. And we actually met to see Donkey Kong, the monkey,
Is Thomas
or the gorilla.
Clifford? Is Thomas Clifford?
All Nick Jr.'s princesses and knights are coming together to celebrate Nella the Princess Knight.
Please welcome the bravest knight in all the land.
It'll be night-tastic.
Brave, brave knight in your armor bright, riding on your trusty steed, questing forth to do the deed.
Shining armor.
Oh, how gallant you can be!
Knight, yeah.
I wish I was a princess. So you want to be a princess with a shiny crown, sparkly jewels, and a beautiful gown, living in the palace with a unicorn. But a true princess isn't just born that way. Let's put it all together. Time to be a princess knight.
Brave, brave knight, stand.
A princess is kind, a princess is loyal. Let's go.
Brave knight, brave.
Gotta have things if you want to be loyal. See, brave knight. It's all about brave knight. And maybe I could be a princess too.
Go on royally awesome adventures with Nella the Princess Knight on Nickelodeon.
You can find more shorts and episodes in the free Nick Jr. app.
fascinating fact